Welcome everyone to 1 Degree's special lunchtime forum held in the lead up to Sustainable House Day. 1 Degree is News Corp Australia's environmental sustainability initiative, and it's about the steps that we can all take that add up to big change, which is why we're all here today. Sustainable House Day is a great example of the steps you can all take that add up to big change, and they can change how much you spend on your bills as well, which is great. Here today to tell us about some of those changes and the incredible smart technology that can help us is David Soutar, CEO and co-founder of Wattcost. David's pretty inspiring and I think you'll all love his story. David will be followed by a designer from the Alternative Technology Association, the organisation that runs Sustainable House Day. David has 2 decades of global technical and commercial experience in smart energy, mobile technologies and consumer products. He has a successful track record in product innovation and managing international teams with Philips Electronics, Foster's International, and Honeywell Automation. This expertise is underpinned by a driving desire to create simple, seamless, and adaptable products which consumers love to use. David's latest project is Wattcost, a revolutionary new technology that simply turns any home or apartment and existing household appliances into the intelligent learning home. I'd now like to invite David to the stage to tell us about the journey and what it means for the future of AI in our homes. Thanks, David.
I'm going to talk a little bit about what the new technologies are and how they're going to affect our daily lives. Now, AI, artificial intelligence, is a very big area, and people are always saying, what exactly is AI? It's a huge area. It's been developing over the last decade, mostly because of the increase in computing power and software techniques that are available to us. These are sort of the buzzwords that are whipping around the industry that people throw at people pretty randomly. They're highly technical. They're different methods of using AI systems in different industries. And people often confuse the simplicity of decision making with things like probabilistic modeling, where you're forecasting what's going to happen rather than just identifying how the data you've already collected is going to be used in a decision process. So these are the areas that we study quite closely. And we've applied this to the home. And we saw this as a neglected area, certainly in the energy world. And it's a multifaceted problem. Part of it is we're not all geeks. Some of us have a hard enough time logging into our mobile phones. And these are highly complex systems that you don't want to have a full-time IT manager running around your home trying to keep the thing running. So these are the things that we sat and looked at and said, how do we make it something that a consumer can use in their everyday life? And it puts the consumer in power of things like the cost of their electricity, on the safety of their home, their carbon footprint, their personal carbon footprint. So we imagined it'd be kind of cool if your home could talk to you and tell you these things in a humanized fashion. So rather than being bunches of graphs and numbers and things that most people, don't want to even look at, let alone try and interpret, what if your home was intelligent enough to tell you what was going on in real time so that you could act on it when it was important? And you didn't end up getting a horrible electricity bill 3 months later because the thermostat on your electric hot water system broke and it's been running continuously ever since. So these are the problems that we imagine AI systems are very effective at solving and identifying what is normal and what's not normal in your home. And to learn about that so that it's a personalized experience for your home. We've kind of been waiting for this for a long time. I don't know if many of you remember the Jetsons, but that was in my youth. We used to religiously watch these cartoon animations from Hanna-Barbera, and we're all going to be living in automation bliss by now. Well, 40 years later, we're not. And it comes down to a few fundamental problems. These things. Our houses are full of appliances. They're all connected to electricity. They all cost money to run. We're not in charge of these things. We have a choice as to what we buy, how much we're prepared to pay for it. But today, if you're faced with buying a smart fridge that's $3,000 that tells you when it's run out of milk versus one that costs $700 that does exactly the same thing and you can open the door and see if you run out of milk. The choice is always going to be the cheaper version of this. So these are the fundamental things when people talk about the Internet of Things is going to change the world. Today we've got houses full of dumb appliances. They're not connected to the connected world. And for AI systems to work, it has to be a combination of the data inputs that it's receiving versus the interpretation of that data and how to humanize it into meaningful things that we can interpret and act on. So this is the big challenge in the home. I often reference, it'd be awesome that we could all just drive up a truck to our house with the latest equipment. All the old equipment would go out the back door, be recycled. We'd all be happy about that, and we'd be living in nirvana. Not going to happen in the next 10 years, I'm afraid. This is our goal as a company, to use AI technologies to help people reduce their carbon emissions from their daily lives. And it's a very interesting conversation you have with investors when they say, how much money are we going to make? And we go, okay, let's just turn that around and say, if we're truly successful and can reduce 10 million tonnes of carbon emissions from the use of energy in residential properties, that's moving $2.3 billion, now gone up 20%, into the hands of other people. Today, sitting in electricity companies' hands, in the future, not sitting in their hands. So this is how industries are now being changed quite dramatically from these upcoming technologies. We had a unique problem that we had to solve in how do you get the data that you need to make AI systems work properly. Electricity as an industry is a really old one, 100 years old. Technology hasn't changed much in a long time. It's about getting electricity generated, transported to the building, metered and billed. So the whole industry is geared around as a supply industry, not a help us save money industry or help us reduce our carbon footprint. And it's very hard to change such a big industry in the way it works. So when we first started the project, we heard all about these things called smart meters, and we thought, that sounds kind of cool. Instead of someone going out and reading the meter, they can now just transmit that data up. But because the industry is based on margins and profits, they end up designing a thing that we call a smart cash register. It's not a smart meter at all. It's not helping the consumer, it's helping the industry transfer their costs onto you. So for those who don't understand how the electricity industry works, there's what's called baseload electricity that is normally in Australia created from burning coal. That's pre-purchased by the energy retailers 12 to 24 months ahead. They hedge that to get the lowest price possible. Then, depending on the weather outside, the load goes up and down during the day. Different days of the week, different weather conditions. So Australia has gas turbines to handle that change in load because it takes a long time to get coal stations fired up and turned down. Gas turbines can come on almost instantaneously and start generating electricity. And when they're all at capacity, then they turn to the snowy hydro scheme and start running water down the hill. And can charge a lot of money for that, because it's a big storage battery. Now, what most people don't realise is that that's not an infinite resource. It only snows so many times a year in the snowy mountains, and there's only so much water in that system. So what the industry does is at night time, they use coal-fired electricity to pump the water back up the hill again. So we really don't have a renewable solution in our grid supply system. So because the existing technology doesn't exist in our homes, we said, how do we get this data? Because everything we've seen on the market before is complicated, needs an electrician to install, it's expensive, it doesn't stay connected to the internet. Mostly hobbyist stuff. Great if you're into putting things together yourself, but not a mass market product. So the first thing we had to invent was a product technology to get the data out of the house, aptly called the Wattcost beacon. So we haven't quite worked out what to call it yet. Maybe you guys can help us, but people call it a hockey puck or a variety of names. But essentially what it does is solves a very simple problem. It uses what's already there in your home, an electricity meter, with a little sensor that sticks on the front of the meter. It's essentially a camera. And it's watching the spinning disc fly around or the flashing LED on the meter. It works on any electricity meter anywhere in the world. Second problem we had to solve was there's never a power point where you need one, and there's rarely one in your meter box. So we had to design a technology that would run effectively on batteries for a long period of time for it to be a consumer installable device. So we had to create a new Wi-Fi technology that allowed us to run for 6 or more months on regular batteries. Also rechargeable batteries. And that's a bit like saying your smartphone's going to run on a charge for 6 months. So this was groundbreaking technology that we've had to develop, and it's been done here in Australia. Managed to get some patents around it as well. And it has infinite possibilities in the way it can be used to meter utilities, especially electricity, water, gas, all of these combinations. So this is what we've been working on for 4 years, is developing this technology. As Steph mentioned, we've just run a successful crowdfunding campaign to get the first orders in from consumers, everyday consumers. And it's all around simplicity. So that's an idea. It's a little sensor that just sticks on the front of your meter. Anyone can do that. And it connects up to your home Wi-Fi network, and it gives us the real-time data. So that's all fine. We've now got some data. What do we do with it? Because all this is one sensor. The Internet of Things is telling us that we've got to have sensors everywhere. So we send the data up to our cloud computers, and then we want to send it down to your mobiles, because that's now the ubiquitous form of technology interface for us in our everyday lives. And this is where AI systems and machine learning start to come into play. So we've pre-trained machine learning systems that from that single sensor can identify every major appliance in your house. So we know when your fridge is turning on and off. We know when the heater's on and off, the washing machine, the dishwasher, the oven. Now, we're not the first person to come up with this idea. There's 3 other companies we know around the world that are attempting this, but they've had to settle on a device that has to be installed by an electrician, which defeats the whole price proposition in the consumer market. So, and some of them you have to actually train yourself. So you've got to turn everything off in your house and then turn appliances on and off individually to train the system. So we said that's not a great consumer experience. So Tel's in charge of our group that's been developing the machine learning algorithms that autonomously detect these major appliances in your house. And so with that level of data, we can work with non-connected appliances, so dumb appliances, and make them smart. So people, when we talk about this a lot, they go, oh, but can I turn my light bulb on or off from my mobile? And we go, yes, if you've got a light bulb that can be turned on or off from your mobile. Is it going to impact your carbon footprint? Not much. Is it going to burn your house down if you leave it on? Probably not. So AI systems have got to be purpose-driven in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And what we're trying to achieve is help people take control of their energy costs and reduce their carbon footprint. So the real fun comes in humanizing this data into something that we can act on as individuals. Because the best switch in the world is still the human finger, if only it knows what to do. So these are some of the ideas that we think about. I leave home and I've left an appliance on. I kind of like to know that before I get to work and sit at work going, I wonder if I left the heater on. or the hair curlers, or the hair straighteners, or the iron. So through geofencing on your smartphone, we're able to tell when you're leaving home or coming home. And the system proactively is looking for unusual things that are going on. So it can pick up these sorts of departure events. Not many people understand when we purchase energy these days, if you're unfortunate to have a thing called a time of use electricity meter, the price changes at different times of the day. So we're looking for those events that if you flick on your dishwasher straight after dinner, then that's going to cost you 2 to 3 times more than if you turn it on after 10 p.m. at night. So an AI system learns what is important in terms of educating you, what you need to understand to be able to have an impact. Another branch of machine learning is called deep learning systems, where it's very styled around the behavior. So we use a system where we're able to profile the personality of the person that's receiving the data and change the message to suit that person. So to give you an example of that, some people are, if you tell them they've done a good job and a pat on the back, that's awesome. You know, like they've been recognized for making a difference. Other people want a physical reward. They want the free baseball cap. They want the free t-shirt because they need that type of validation. Right up the far end of the personality spectrum are the narcissists, who are just basically there to try and big note themselves and show off in front of other people. And you don't want to group those people with people that are trying to do the right thing. So the breadth of AI that can be involved in these processes in meaningful engagement is growing quite rapidly. And these systems self-learn now how to do that. So one of our passions is, I have an elderly mother, still living at home. That's a focus for a lot of governments now, is to help people stay in their homes as long as they can. But we're worried about how are they, and we don't want to be constantly ringing them to say, you know, how are you doing today, Mum? So one of our demonstration systems is around identifying what's a normal and abnormal behaviour for elderly people. So an example of that is Grandma or Mum didn't get up this morning and have a cup of tea that she always does between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll get a message on my phone telling me that and give her a call, see if she's okay. The fridge door hasn't been opened in 3 days, not eating. The washing machine hasn't been used in a week, not looking after herself. So the power of these systems, if they're applied to specific market verticals and with humanizing the data, are extremely powerful. I'll just go back a little bit into AI systems are based on training software algorithms. So it relies on millions of data points to be able to build these algorithms. We spent over 2 years having test equipment in houses measuring the individual digital fingerprints of major appliances. And we moved that equipment around on a 3-monthly basis so that we got a broad spectrum of data. We're looking at billions of data points here about how appliances in your home use electricity. Then our data science team takes that data and they start developing the mathematical models that are able to identify those signals from those appliances. Now, I get asked a lot about how the heck does that work. If you imagine if you stuck an electricity meter on every single appliance in your house, and then you graphed the use of electricity, you get a unique fingerprint, a unique graph of how that particular appliance uses its energy. You then overlay on top of that what time of day it was, what day of the week, what was the weather condition. Is this a regular or irregular event? And then you can stack those graphs on top of each other, and that's the data that we get from the single sensor. And the machine learning systems then pull that apart again and tell us what the state of an appliance is, whether it's on or off. So we call it the past, the present, and the future. The past is learning about what you have done. That's been good or bad, so that you don't repeat that behaviour. The present is knowing what's happening right now in your own home. Is this a good time? If I've got a solar system on my house, is this a good time to put my washing machine on? Because I don't want to buy the electricity off the grid, because that sucks. That's like 5 times more. I'd rather use my clean energy. So our system is able to tell people that. Today would be a good day to put your washing machine on at 10:35 or 10:30, because that will make the maximum use of your solar energy without exporting it to someone who today is profiting from my solar energy. For those who don't understand the industry here, if you have a solar system on your house, the excess gets exported, you get 6 to 8 cents. I think they're talking about it upping that to maybe 10 cents. When you buy it back, it costs you 50 cents. It's a pretty raw deal. This is where battery technologies are starting to come into play in the home as well, because people don't want to export and get shafted. If I can use that 40 cents to buy a battery that will pay itself off in a reasonable time frame, then I'm going to be making money. We're still not there yet. We're still about, I think, 12.9 years was the last calculation we did on most battery storage systems. So for a technology that only has a 10-year warranty, probably not a good thing to go down that path yet, but the prices are coming down rapidly. The future is where it gets really interesting, because this is a branch of AI that's called probabilistic. So this is, if you do this, this will be the result. So we've drawn that back a little bit into practical situations. One is, we all know we're getting screwed by our electricity companies because they've created all these random plans that you can't compare one against the other. So we take the data that's coming from our sensor and run it against every plan from every provider and stick it on a leaderboard. And in the app, you can just say, change me to those guys, because they're going to save me $432 this year. So this is part of a toned down version of probabilistic theory. The other one is, should I actually put a solar system on my house? What's going to be the payback period? Who are the best people to deal with to get this? So this is where community-driven feedback comes in. What works, what hasn't worked? What's going to be the result? So it sits in both domains, the analysis of the past, but the probabilistic side as to what will be the payback. Faulty fridge, that's always an interesting one. So we can see from the signature of how a fridge uses electricity as to whether it's faulty or not. The door seals might have gone, the compressor might have gone, but this is all identifiable from signatures. And one of our favourite, which unfortunately I don't have a picture of, is that we've just signed a partnership with a company called Greenfleet, who plant native Australian trees around Australia for carbon offsetting. So we're able to calculate historically and probabilistically what your carbon footprint is going to be in your home, and you can, at a touch of a button, plant native trees to offset that so you can be carbon zero. So that's, I think, a world first. Someone said the other day, to be able to have that level of controls through the whole energy journey from where you are today to be carbon zero. Data-driven learning systems is what we've been talking about. This is a view of how easy it is to get on a better electricity plan. And it's based off your own data. So we can't fudge this. We have every plan from every provider, irrespective of whether we do get a small commission for the switching, we don't care. It's based on fact. So where does this all lead to in the future? This is all really good because it's about what we have today. How is this going to impact us in the future? So number one, it will impact our decision processes and what we do consider to be smart home technology and purposeful about what we do in our own lives. So it's a challenging time in the industry because we want to get there faster, but we can't if these appliances won't talk together. Some can work autonomously if you tell them the right thing to do. A lot of them can't. So we said, where is the industry leading? And what we see is companies like Apple and Amazon and Google have now created voice assistant platforms. And this has been a passion of mine for a long time. I started professional life as an engineer developing mobile phones for Philips and Ericsson in Scandinavia. And we've always said, to interact with technology has to interact with us in a way that we understand. If we have to change our behaviours to use technology, it's a fail. Internally, we say, if it comes with an instruction manual, you've failed. So technology has got to learn how we think and work and want to make decisions in our life. Some things we'll be happy that will run autonomously and will just work by itself. Other things we want to be involved in the decision process. So we think that this is what's going to happen over the next 4 to 5 years, is these voice assistants are going to become quite a dominant part of what we do. But you need to understand the companies behind them and why they're doing this. So, and I always look at the core of a company. So a company like Google, they're a search engine company that make money from advertising. So they want to use AI to decide what ads to put in front of you, so you buy those things, which can then improve their ad revenue. So their system is very much around collecting as much data about what you do at home to be able to present you with more things to buy that their advertisers are willing to pay for. Amazon is very much the same. They are selling you things. So they want to help your shopping experience by understanding what you want to shop for. So some of their variations are they have a device called an Amazon Echo, which is a speaker, pretty bad speaker, but it has lots of microphones in it that's listening to everything that's going on in your home. It's starting to network with some other sensors. So one I saw the other day was you stick it on your washing machine and it measures the vibration, and it works out kind of how much detergent or powder you're using and at what point you probably need some more detergent. And will present you that as a buying opportunity. Do you want to order some detergent? Because we've kind of worked out that you're running out. So these are AI-based systems. Some of them are very simple. Some of them you look at and you go, what the heck would I want that for? But this is where the industry is thinking. The other one that we quite like is Apple's approach. They look at it from a completely different angle. They go, we want to be the best technology company in the world. They're not using your data to try and sell you anything apart from Apple products. And they are very good in terms of keeping that data private. So yesterday we had the announcement of the new iPhone 10. This has AI technology in it. There's two of the processors can do 600 billion calculations a second for doing things like facial recognition. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. We call it the Intelligent Learning Home because it's going to learn to help you have a better life at home. Also, hopefully, to make the right choices when it comes to your own personal carbon footprint and how to manage that. And the upside is you'll never get screwed by an electricity company ever again. So thanks.